If your habit has been to only do that when you are looking to receive something, I guess there would be some preparation of you might get asked, what are you, why are you sweetening me up, honey?
When you feel that, leaders take responsibility for that. Instead of just complain, they choose to create it differently.
I've just noticed as I introduce others powerfully, as I see the good things and I share it in them, like it creates a stronger bond. They're willing to go out and take risks and do things they didn't think they could do before. Like miracles can be created when you speak powerfully to your spouse, to your kids, to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, your employees.
In order for there to be giving, however, there must be also receiving. And so I also invite you all to receive what people speak about you that's useful and powerful, and say thank you and acknowledge it, right? Welcome to the Everyday Leader Podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Leader Podcast. Today it's Matt and I talking again. We had an amazing weekend together. I've shared a little bit on this channel. I've partnered with some men on AMP, which is the hat you see if you're watching this episode, the Abundant Man Project. And we had our first in-person event with about 34 men. Really great experience. Matt was one of our coaches at the event. And we had some things that we experienced this weekend that we thought would make for a great conversation on today's episode. And one of the things that I've realized that men, and maybe people in general, but especially men, we often don't do a great job of talking about the good things we see in one another. There's probably some reasons why we don't, and it's powerful when we do. And for me, it was really powerful to be there and look at you, Matt, also look at our good friend Josh Tilley. And for me, it was like, man, there's no two men that have spoken more good things into my life the last couple years than you two have. And just when I heard other men get to share what they saw in one another, how great that was. And we talk, the world talks a lot about affirmations for yourself, but affirmations for others and telling others what you see in them now or that they're capable of is super powerful. And we wanted to jam on that today.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's funny that like our topic today is we're going to talk about words, right? Like how to speak powerful things to other people. And there aren't actually words to describe what we experienced this weekend. It's super cool. Like, and we actually, one of the people that spoke first and kind of kicked it off talked about the word awe and how when you experience awe, like there's not words to describe it. And a lot of awe moments get created first with language and with words. Yeah. So, as far as like maybe one of the reasons why we don't as men typically maybe as naturally like share the good things we see in people or speak that way is I think a vulnerability thing. A lot of times when we think about vulnerability, we actually think about like, well, vulnerability is like sharing your story or your dirty laundry or your struggles, right? Which are all true. Those are all part of vulnerability. And a lot of times we kind of tie that up in the same reason why we don't want to share that stuff is the same reason we don't want to share the good stuff, because it's vulnerable to kind of open your soul up and show your emotion and show your tenderness and show your like kind of the loving, caring side of you sometimes I think and it blocks us a little bit, right? It's like, well, I'm not going to say that to that guy. Like that's weird, or that's like fluffy, and look, and there's plenty of ways to speak powerfully that aren't fluffy. And what we want to drive home today is that there's power in speaking what authentically occurs to you about another person. Someone last weekend, Drew asked me about my habits, and it was kind of an interesting question. It had me reflect on like, well, what are my actual habits? Because, and we can get into this another time, I don't really believe that habits by themselves are like the answer. Because a lot of times you could get a bunch of habits but still not be happy, or you could do a bunch of stuff and still not like be fulfilled. However, habits are super important because they kind of help you get into like this flow of who you want to be and how you want to show up. So as I was reflecting though, that's one of the habits that came up that I was able to realize that I've developed and that I'm grateful for, which is the habit of when I have a good thought, like a useful, powerful thought or impression about someone, I tell them. And a lot of times I don't think we get to see what it does for them. Sometimes we do. What do you say? Like sometimes we don't really, they don't necessarily come back and tell us like, hey, this is what that did for me, or we don't get to see how it shifts, them or what they're doing or what they're thinking. And I believe that it really creates something powerful in someone when we speak to them with true and bold and powerful words of affirmation.
Yeah, let me give some examples of this in case someone's listening and they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?" Maybe no one's ever said anything good to you, and
Yeah.
you're amazing just because you're listening to this. Not for us, but because you
Yeah.
care about being a leader and being a better person. So first off, if you're listening and no one has said that good thing to you, that's something good about you. And if you need some more good things, message me or Matt, and we'll tell you some good things about yourself. Um, but two, I can think back to moments where people said good things to me and it stuck. Um, one of the earliest, I remember I wasn't ever great at sports, but I was pretty good in baseball. I was pretty good, and I remember my coach just bragging about me to the whole team and just like creating a sense of confidence in me because he saw I was really good at hitting the ball. I was the best on our team at hitting the ball, getting to base. And I don't know, I was probably I don't, when does little league end? I don't know what age,
Like
but
11, 12, something like
I
that.
was around that age and I just remember like for the first time ever in sports feeling like, "Oh, I'm actually good at a sport." Be, only be like and I don't know if I would have felt that way if regardless if he hadn't have just said that to me. Um I some of you might know our listeners, I got my pilot's license a couple years ago, and I was really self-conscious about it. I was afraid of how I'd be perceived because I did that, and I bought a plane with a partner, and I remember a good who's become a good friend of mine that we were talking, and he asked if I had a plane. I said, "Well, I co-own it with my friend Chandler," and I kind of like brushed it off like, well, I don't really have my own. I own it with somebody else. He's like, dude, you own a plane, man. You're awesome. Like, and I just remember like feeling like I am kind of awesome. Like, and there's just something that happens one to be on the receiving side of that. And I think it's important to receive it. Like one, don't downplay the good things people say to you. Sometimes we're too quick to do that in an effort to be humble or because it makes us uncomfortable. Um, and it can feel good for the other person to receive that and tell them thank you. And then on the flip side, like I've just noticed as I introduce others powerfully, as I see the good things and I share it in them, like it creates a stronger bond. They're willing to go out and take risks and do things they didn't think they could do before. And like miracles can be created when you speak powerfully to your spouse, to your kids, to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, your employees. And I keep seeing that the more I participate on the receiving end and the giving end of that.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I can also think of many examples of when other people have spoken that way to me. And I'm going to share the ones that I can think of that I have done recently, only because I want you to see what this looks like for me taking action. This isn't about like, hey, look at how cool I am at talking powerfully about people. I want you to see some examples of how this shows up in my life and how I've been striving to take action on it. And again, while also so grateful for all of the people, the person at the top of the list next to my mom being Drew, who I'm talking to right now, and and then how they've spoken into me and how they've spoken to me and about him. And so the first example I can think of is there was one weekend where I don't even remember why, but it just occurred to me. I had this thought about there was two people uh, in our church group that had just shown up repeatedly, like in a really powerful way, and I had noticed it. And I remember having the thought, if, and I like to talk like this sometimes, that like if we gave out Player of the Week awards, I think of it that way, like, hey, you'd be the Player of the Week, and crazy. I happened to see them both in like less than expected situations. So like one of them was driving up my street as I was like playing catch with my son. And so I like stopped her. She rolled down her window and I was like, "Hey, like I just want you to know if we give out Player of the Week awards, like you're one of them." And then I told her why, like about how she had shown up because like I see her influence in so many things and how she like just shows up for people and loves people in an amazing way. The other one, I'm driving down the road somewhere and this guy is walking up the road. And so I pulled over, rolled down my window, and we started talking. And I told him the same thing. I'm like, "Hey, this week, like, you'd be the Player of the Week." And told him, just how much I love him, what I thought about him. And I said, "I promise you, I have learned way more from you than you'll ever learn from me, just by watching how he is and how he shows up with people." And so those are just two examples of like, I want to normalize that. Like, I want that to be normal. That when we have a thought about someone that's useful and powerful, go tell them. And again, I haven't necessarily seen or they haven't necessarily told me like, "Hey, your comment changed my life" or whatever. And I'm unattached to that. And I know it boosted them, right? It always does. There's no one that doesn't love an attaboy. It doesn't matter how old they are, how experienced they are, whatever. There's no one that doesn't love like hearing words of affirmation about them.
Yeah, no, I love that. Everybody loves an attaboy.
Yeah.
So good.
And if they
Well,
say they
let's
don't, they're not telling the truth.
right. Yeah, so let's dive into why that seems difficult. Like why is that sometimes hard? Like was that always easy for you, Matt, to be able to express that to people? And what do you feel keeps people from doing that naturally and easily?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it hasn't always been natural, especially when I was younger. I can think of like how apprehensive I was to like kind of approach people with that level of just like boldness or openness. And I think it's rooted in like our brains want to keep us safe. And for some reason, we associate that with not being safe, even though like you're just saying nice things to people. Um, but I still think it's like, well, what if they think I'm weird? What if, what if it comes across wrong? What if it's judged by someone else who hears me say it, right? What if I'm judged by someone else who hears me give this compliment? So there's several things like that that I think come up, and we worry about keeping ourselves safe and protected, or our brain does, right? So it sabotages the idea to go speak that way. And I also am grateful. I have examples of people in my life who do this or who have done this. Um, I mean, both my parents come to mind for sure as like they're just likely to do this, and I can think of a lot of times when they have done this for me, and then so I think it's a simultaneous like awareness and commitment to I want to lift others and inspire others. I want to encourage others. And also I think part of it is working on, hey, I also don't really care if I'm judged by this situation. I'm more committed to inspiring this person than I am to avoiding judgment or being open to damage, which is what being vulnerable is. So
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but I think, well, one thing I've experienced is the reason this is sometimes difficult is, and maybe so more so for men, is sometimes we struggle to show the emotion that might that might come with that. Sometimes to share how you see someone and how they've impacted you can be really personal. Maybe it brings some tears. And in fact, it's funny because as I've been thinking about tears and crying as like a man lately, and I noticed that when I speak or talk and I do tear up or cry, that I'll tell people I'm sorry. And I'm like, why do I keep apologizing for showing emotion? Which I think is kind of fascinating and interesting. And two, I think that's another thing that just sometimes makes it a challenge for people. It's like, hey, this is to share what I'd really want to share with this person is so special and means so much to me that I don't know how I can say it without without feeling the emotion that would come with this.
yeah. And just so you all know, I mean, Drew and I literally like cried like whatever you want to use to describe it, a baby, over
Yeah.
and over again all weekend. And nothing about it was weird. You know, I mean, there was a lot of embracing and emotions and it's just a cool experience, right? And a lot of that has been created over time with speaking powerfully to people. And um, so it's a beautiful thing. And it's super understandable that we're opposed to it. Again, going back to like your brain wants to keep you safe, and everything about this is not like right is saying like I'm going to be so judged for showing emotion. I'm going to be judged for these things, and it's okay. Like if that's how it occurs to you, and hopefully by listening today, you kind of understood some of the reasons why maybe that's natural for you to feel. And what we are proposing is that leaders like to show up as a leader. Leaders share what's occurring to them authentically, and and create people powerfully around them with their words. It's one of the things that leaders do. And leaders also like showing up as a leader is acknowledging your emotions and being okay with them and not trying to squash them or um, push them down or push them away. And and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'll share the story I shared with you too beforehand, but I, in preparing for this week, had a really busy week, and it was my birthday last week. And in preparing and having such a crazy busy week mixed in with travel on my birthday, my wife wanting to, make sure I felt loved, asking me, "Hey, what do you want to do for your birthday?" And I just told her I've got so much on my plate. Let's not even worry about it. And then the event passed, and I was thinking back. It's like my kids love celebrating me and love celebrating my birthday, and I felt some sadness. Not that I didn't get celebrated, but like more of the sadness for them. Of course, my wife, the awesome wife that she is, they had a birthday party planned for me Sunday evening after we were back from the event. And as we started doing that, I just felt like, man, I'm going to ask my kids to say some good things to me. And I'm coming off this high of this weekend and this great event that we had. And my kids start telling me the things they love about me. And I'm just like sobbing and in tears. And I'm sure my kids are like, what's wrong with dad? And it just like, I just felt like, hey, it's important for me to feel this. It's important for me to feel love from other people. And it's a great reminder for me of like, I want to continue to make sure others feel this, that they know what they're incredible at, that they know what I see they could be incredible at if they aren't living up to that yet in their life, if they haven't stepped into that yet. And I promise you, no one's going to be upset if you ever tell them something you love about them or see in them. In fact, it'll probably make them a better friend. So be careful. You might have a lot more friends if you find yourself speaking that way to people more often.
Yeah, totally. Well, so the other thing is like, what a cool opportunity for your kids to see and learn and experience like that their words created a powerful emotion and a powerful experience for you. Like that's amazing. And a big part of this also is around being open to receiving, right? Like you're willing to create that opportunity for them to do that and receive what they said. And a lot of times we try to shut that down too, right? Like so again, let's go here for a second. That part of this is the giving of the words, right? The giving and the speaking powerfully, which is amazing, right? That's what you have complete responsibility over as it when it comes to like how you create other people and speak to them. And in order there for there to be giving, however, there must be also receiving. And so I also invite you all to receive what people speak about you that's useful and powerful and say thank you and acknowledge it, right? And not try to downplay it or say, well, you're just saying that or that's a pity invite or that's a you just feel bad for me or whatever, right? There's a lot of ways that you may find that you're trying to sabotage that or and let's not decide for someone else if their compliment gets to be sincere. If someone gives you a sincere compliment and speaks to you this way, receive it.
How do I receive it, Matt?
Well, I mean, part of it is just that, right? Because what's happening, I mean, what's really happening when we do that is that our own internal view of ourselves is less powerful than what they're saying. And so we're naturally like fighting against it, right? Because we're like, well, that can't be true because I've been telling myself all day like how worthless I am or how much I'm not enough. And And that's okay. Let that show you that and be like, wow, okay, I can work on receiving that. I can work on being like, you know what? What's true about what they just said? Could that be true? Right? Approach it with curiosity. If you're not able to receive it at face value, uh, approach it with curiosity and ask yourself, well, why would that person say that? What could be true about what they just said? It could that actually be how I am perceived and show up for people? And do I want to step into that more? So if you're not
And a
able to
better
just receive it, be curious about it and go at least ask the question, like, is something true about that? Like, why would they say that about me?
and if your struggle is just knowing how to respond, like what to say back, if your habit is, "Oh, no, it's no big deal," or "No, you like, you don't have to say that," or "You're just saying that," or "No, I'm," if someone says, "Oh, you're amazing." "No, I'm not that special." Like whatever your response is to compliments, if that's you, it doesn't have to be something crazy you say back. It could be as simple as "Thank you," or "I really appreciate that." And that could be it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to then turn around and necessarily give some amazing compliment back, and they'd probably love to hear that if you have one for them. And it can be as simple as just saying thank you, when someone does that. Because when you downplay that, in some ways, you're you're almost telling them, "Hey, what you're saying to me isn't true," or you're, like, downplaying the gift that someone's giving you, I think it does something to people. I think most of the time, because a lot of people will do that, they'll downplay a compliment. I think people are used to hearing a compliment downplayed, and I think it's powerful for the other person when you tell them, "Thank you, I really appreciate that," "Thank you for sharing with that me, it means a lot to me." And, so you can say some simple things right back if you don't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for noticing. I received that, yeah. It That's a great thing for everyone to work on is the next time someone gives you a compliment, receive it instead of trying to downplay it and see what that can do as far as like how it creates how you see yourself. Okay.
Well, maybe
One
one
one of
last
the
thing, I had one
Yeah,
idea
go
to
ahead.
end on it, but how does this relate to leadership?
Yeah, well, it's intentional, right? Like when we're talking about this type of like intentional language and sharing what occurs to us that's useful and powerful about someone, that's really intentional. And leaders create, right? We talked about that a lot of times. Leaders inspire, right? We've had a lot of guests on. We've had a lot of awesome examples of like what people understand is like what leaders do and what leadership is. Leaders have influence and impact, right? And all of that gets created by how you are with another person. And right, I mean, obviously we talk a lot about self leadership, and ultimately leadership involves other people, right? It's like the influence and the impact that you have, and a lot of that comes from how you're willing to speak to people. And it's also the exercise of the muscle of taking action when something occurs to you. And I think at the core, that's actually like one of the biggest leadership principles here is like take action on the things that come into your mind and kick the like spirit, like kick the chicken in you, right? That's actually rooted in your survival, like your brain trying to keep you safe. Just kick it to the curb. And that's a muscle too. Start practicing that. Be like, you know what? This feels uncomfy. Leaders go where it's uncomfortable. And that's not always like a bad place or a scare. Like it could just be telling someone you love them could bring that up for you. Like I'm super uncomfy with that. And that's like kind of outside my comfort zone. Kick that chicken to the curb and take action on what's occurring to you. And let's normalize that. Like let's
Yeah.
normalize leaders sharing authentically, speaking powerfully, and sharing these types of things. And it creates, we didn't even get into this today much. And there's tons of research out there about this, about how words create this type of stuff in plants. They've done it with plants, they've done it with animals, they've done it
Water.
with children, water. Yeah, like water that's frozen and how it changes. Like there's all kinds of stuff out there that you can go find about like the actual physiological response that happens when someone is spoken to powerfully is a very real thing. Your words absolutely matter and create something when you speak. So choose carefully in how you speak to other people.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and a person has come to mind or something good about someone, I I would I would challenge you to go tell that person. Tell that person what you found. I thought of one maybe negative side effect of all of this, Matt,
Okay.
that maybe could come up. Your wife or your kid or your parent, they might be like, "What do you want?"
Yeah.
For me. And so that's like that means there's an opportunity to do that more often if that happens. If the only time you are ever sharing what you see great in somebody is when you're asking for something, like get into the habit of sharing without looking for something back.
Yeah.
Uh, and and it's just powerful to hear that and not then have a request following it. Because often when there's a request we want to make of somebody, sometimes that's when we save those compliments or those nice things we might say about somebody is when we're looking for something back. So I would also encourage you to look for ways that you can do that. If your habit has been to only do that when you are looking to receive something, I guess there would be some preparation of you might get asked, "What are you? Why are you sweetening me up, honey?" Uh,
Yeah.
and just say, "Because I love you," and that's it.
Yeah. Just wanted to share, like had that thought, wanted to share it with you. Yeah. Look, it can be easy to in your daily and experience to have the propensity to judge someone or to have like a thought about someone that's like not powerful about or maybe a focus on what they don't have or don't do or what they're not. And that's okay. When you feel that, look, leaders take responsibility for that and choose to instead of just complain or view someone as their experience, they choose to create it differently. And so, like, be a leader. Go talk to people in a way that it creates them powerfully into the way that you see that they could be. That's the opposite of what you want to judge them for, or critique them for, or potentially belittle them for. So, be a leader and take responsibility for your words, and use your words to powerfully create the people around you. If you're waiting for them to change, guess what? It's actually you and your interpretation of them that you're experiencing. So it's not gonna. Take responsibility and speak to them differently and see what happens as they elevate to the level of your words.
Awesome. Well, great stuff, Matt. And for our listener, whatever's occurred to you today, go out and speak powerfully to someone. Today's the day.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.